So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for a session with Insta Ahlul Bayt and myself and our guests. My name is Berak Hussain. I am a registered psychotherapist, and I do counseling with both local as well as international students. And essentially, what we are doing this evening is we're having a great discussion on processing and healing and growth. And it looks like we're gonna have a bit of challenge with internet tonight, as our guest from London is gonna be joining us, inshallah. Just waiting for her to get in. So just bear with us. You know, we've been having these issues quite a bit over the last few months with just talking to people from different countries. So inshallah, we'll be able to get that all sorted out. So it looks like we might have to jump in and out, but khair inshallah. So I'd like to introduce my guest after we do a little bit of an intro here again. And I pray, first of all, that everybody's doing well and that you're doing well given the circumstances that we're in the pandemic. And alhamdulillah, you know, you have the resilience to deal with the struggles that we've been experiencing. At the same time, learning how to challenge these difficulties and facing them with resilience, with strategies, with patience. And our session today will be taking a look at how to deal with that, to openly talk about challenges that we experience, whether it's everyday, today challenges or other challenges that happen that are a little bit more than day to day, whether it's trauma, whether it's loss or anything like that. So inshallah, today we'll take a look at how to process these challenges, how to heal from them, and also how to grow from them. And I can see here we've gotten a bit of challenge with our internet already. So inshallah, our sister can join us again. And once she's on, then I will properly introduce her. There we go. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Tuka. So, Alwiya Tuka, she is an Iraqi Londoner, a Canadian Iraqi here. So she is a single mother of two beautiful children that I had the opportunity to meet and connect with. MashaAllah, she is doing a BA in House of Studies in England, and she has a degree in Quran Arabic. She's also a reciter for female audiences and an Islamic lecturer as well in these majalis. She's also played a part recently, and mashallah, you can see her posts in terms of her motivational speaking, and she does that through her social media page, and she uses her own life challenges and learnings to motivate others and inspire others to make a difference in their lives and in their hardships. So her main goal is to help and aid people. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to be having this discussion, very open, very frank, and relaxed, inshallah. So can you mute your laptop, please? Can you mute your laptop? I can hear myself.
Is mute.
Because I can hear myself through. I can hear myself.
Yeah,
through
it's
that.
muted.
Okay, just because there's an interference. So those who are watching on Facebook and on YouTube, can you tell me if you hear an interference? Because I shouldn't be hearing my voice. I should not be hearing my voice come back. Make sure that's out of the way before we continue. For those who are on Instagram, can you hear our voices? Can you hear the voice echo back? Is it maybe through the other speaker, Tuka?
I don't think so. I mean,
you know, I'm saying this all along, and I'm the one who didn't mute it. Okay, so mute your laptop again.
I'm just trying to make sure.
Excellent. Alhamdulillah. Now we're good. Khair, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's funny. I'm like telling you, can you mute your laptop? And it turns out I'm the one that said it.
What's happening?
Well, alhamdulillah, we're good now. Always technical issues. It's khair, inshallah. So Tuka and I met last year, I think. It's been a year. Yeah, around more than a year now. It's such a blessing. We got the opportunity to work together in London on a beautiful, empowering women's event. And here we go with the technical issues again. Inshallah, inshallah that we can. The echo should be gone now, but now it's just the internet. So in that event that we had, we focused a lot on different women of different backgrounds, as well as what it is. So sorry, I'm just distracted while I'm just getting the internet here going again. What we're going to do here, I'm just going to put it out there. If it's not going to work smoothly on Instagram, what we're going to do is going to ask you all to switch over to the Muslim Counsellor YouTube or the Muslim Counsellor Facebook page, and we'll just take it from there if it's going to continue cutting like that, because that's not going to have a full conversation going very well, inshallah. No. So just as I was saying, so we did an event last year at a few centers in London where we're talking about women's empowerment through the different fields of work that we do, as well as being mothers and wives and so on and so forth. And it was fascinating to hear from an Islamic scholar, from the woman who runs alislam.org, from a female journalist and a television personality, a reciter, and the work that I do as a therapist, to see how we all contribute to women in our communities in terms of the work that we do, how significant it is, the challenges that we experience in each of these types of professions, and of course the balance when it comes to work, home, and ourselves, right? Women, mashallah, are such great multitaskers, but at the same time, to balance everything can be challenging, and especially in the world that we're living in now, where there's almost this huge shift of expectation when women started working to take on even more, but we've also forgotten the important role that we play, or not given enough credit to the important role that we play as mothers and wives and home caretakers. And, you know, there's this attitude that you have to be the superwoman out there doing everything, and no, you don't. And one of my good friends, Zainab Merchant, who is a big proponent for this in terms of talking about this myth of superwoman, right, is that it exists, but at the same time it takes away from a woman so much, right? It takes away from her energies in terms of raising the children in the home and expected to still bring money from outside into the home and all of that. And look, there's nothing wrong. In fact, we encourage women to find an education, get an education, and contribute to your society, your home, your community. But then when we take on the role of being mothers, right, there's that primary priority when it comes to taking care of our next generation. Alhamdulillah wa shukr. So today, inshallah, we're going to explore a variety of different topics when it comes to those three main titles that we have here. And we'd love our audience to contribute to the discussion, whether you'd like to text in your comments. Inappropriate discussions about our appearance will result in an immediate block. So just putting that out there. We are two professional women who are passionate about the work that we do, and we will not tolerate any nonsense like that. So for those of you who were just here for amusement or making inappropriate comments, or, you know, just being immature, you're not welcome here. And for those who want to have a serious discussion on tackling these issues, learning how to process from either a therapeutic point of perspective or from a practical perspective, you are more than welcome. This is a safe space to do that. So for that person who is commenting on our appearance, you just got blocked.
I'd leave all the blocking and the dealing with the comments to you, my friend.
All right. So the Salam Zahra. Zahra was also part of our wonderful event. We had a wonderful time last year. Just now, you know, a year later, here we are doing these types of programs, virtual as opposed to in person. So let's get started. Yeah, hella. So when we take a look at processing from a psychotherapeutic perspective, right? Thank you very much, Zahra. Inshallah, next time we'll do these programs together. So when we take a look at it from a psychotherapeutic perspective, we're taking a look at in terms of how to work through challenges, right? When you are encountering trauma, when you're encountering difficult life circumstances, et cetera, processing is the space that we have in counseling where you get the opportunity to work on the difficulties that you are experiencing, and to have that safe space of non-judgment, and non-harshness, right? That compassionate space to talk about something with somebody and process it. So working through the pain of things, working through perhaps some of the things that we're going to look at is anger, burdening yourself, to how to deal with toxic people, looking at dealing with guilt, looking at trauma, the numb feeling that you get when we look at mental health issues, mistakes, validation, et cetera, right? So somebody who's mentioning something here, what do you do if you have a toxic situation at home? Inshallah, what we'll do is we'll try to answer that generally here, and you can take some of these ideas and apply them, inshallah, for yourself, okay? So processing in this circumstance, right, of working through difficult situations in that safe space from a psychotherapeutic perspective gives you the opportunity to sit with the emotions, and they could be positive or negative. In this case, we described a few negative, right? So what we want to do here is give ourselves the opportunity. So I'm going to try one last time on Instagram with Tuka, because it keeps kicking her out. It keeps kicking Tuka out. So we're going to
I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
You're high up in the air, so you should get some good
I know. You think, no?
Yalla khair, inshallah. So what we're going to do is just giving a heads up to everybody here. For those of you who are watching on Insta Ahl Bayt, if it keeps coming off, she's not on her Wi-Fi. If it keeps coming off, just join us on YouTube, The Muslim Counselor, or on Facebook, The Muslim Counselor. We have a live there as well. All right. So Tuka, I just gave a brief outline in terms of what processing means, from a very brief description from the psychotherapeutic perspective. Let's look at it from the practical, or from your experiences with challenges and how you define processing. What does that mean to you?
Sorry, can you repeat that again? Cut off the first thing.
What does processing mean to you, from your experience, from your understanding, from your work, from your personal experiences? What does processing mean to you after I gave the psychotherapy?
Yeah, I think processing in essence in itself means dealing with something that you'd find unimaginable to deal with. For example, if you have a situation that you've been through and you look at it and you think, oh my God, that's so difficult. In essence, that's processing, understanding, identifying the difficulty of said subject or said occurrence, and looking at it in taking in terms of, taking steps towards, finding out what you've been through. So in your mind, step by step, going forward and just processing it, taking one leaf at a time.
And so that could also include a variety of different conflicting emotions, right? We've described a few here. You could be looking at anger. You could be looking at guilt. You could be looking at hate, like self-hate and low self-esteem, burdening. So where do you think this comes from? Like during the process of dealing with pain and life changes and struggles, how does this all fit in? These negative, heavy emotions? Because you can't really feel healing or growth. You can't really feel joy and happiness unless you understand what pain is, right? And understand your mistakes, when you understand what it feels like perhaps when you're dealing with toxic people, right? So I think what we're going to do is maybe cut Instagram. So we cut Instagram. I think we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do right now is cut the Instagram. For those of you who are watching, apologies. The internet is really bad. Somebody mentioned here that YouTube quality is really good. So come on into YouTube and join us there, and we can have still our interactions over there where you can send in comments, and we'll do it there. So I'm going to sign off Instagram, and please join us on YouTube, inshallah. So, assalamu alaikum. All right, so Tuka, we're good here. Let's just stick to here for now.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that wasn't working on Instagram. That's okay. Khair, inshallah. So people are already joining us. I could see that. So I'm just going to repeat what we said here. So how is it when we're talking about processing, and you and I've had many discussions about this, and you've also explored this yourself when you talked about a variety of different issues in terms of how is it that we can deal with these painful experiences or life challenges or struggles? How do you deal with that? And I was just saying, you can't really understand what joy and happiness is all about.
You cannot.
Or, at peace, unless perhaps you've experienced pain and hurt
Exactly.
and negativity, right? Go ahead.
I mean, I think it's even in a sense where theologically, when you're looking at it, and philosophically as well, in understanding true essence of evil, it says, Ibn Sina, he's a well-renowned, famous philosopher. He says you can't understand the essence of good without knowing the bad. So you have to experience the bad in things for you to look at the beauty of good. And we imply it as well here in our daily situations. You can't understand true beauty and true happiness without, you can, but it's not in the same way as different people would. A person who hasn't been through so much calamities would say, this is happiness. However, the way a person processes and understands happiness is how they see their calamities and how they've been through calamities to the point when they experience joy, experience success, experience happiness, they can, appreciate it so much more through that, by understanding this is bad and this is good and this is sadness and this is happiness. And
that in itself, again, all of us experience some kind of sadness in our lives, whether it's, a child who doesn't get the candy that they want, right? Can you imagine right? Or something not getting the grades that they like. Perhaps losing a friend, and loss doesn't necessarily mean death. It could mean the loss of a friendship, could be a loss of a job, it could be a loss, et cetera, right? So these are all everyday life things that happen, but sometimes you go through some really, really difficult changes in life. It could be a loss of a loved one, an actual death, right? It could also be perhaps that you're going through a life change where there's a divorce in the family, where your parents are no longer together, right? Could be the death of a sibling, these types of things, right? Could be you're in a political situation that suddenly turns into a war-torn situation, right? And the reality that is no longer the same safe reality you once lived in. So these, or even a natural disaster, right? So these are all things that we see that can really shake you and take you off balance and really impact you, and then you start to forget to take care of your health. You're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, your attention and focus is not the same as it used to be, et cetera, right? So I'll talk about it after from a psychotherapeutic perspective, but Tuka, from your experiences and what you've seen with people around you and what you have learned in your Islamic studies, your academic studies, how do you find, what are the best strategies to get back on track, or even to get to processing these types of examples that we just spoke about?
To be honest with you, there's no set strategy for everybody. We've seen culturally, and when we talk to our families or our elders, where they say no two fingers are the same. So there's a saying in Arabic, your fingers are at the same levels, they're all different. So every human being, the way they deal with things is totally different. What works for you will not work for me, and what works for me, won't work for other people. However, identifying these problems and realizing that is something that affects me, this is something that's happened, and I need to deal with it. Coming to terms with an occurrence that is so significant in your life is one big step in itself. Identifying it and knowing that has an effect on you is another big step. So people don't value these things, but if you come to realize and recognize these things, that I've been through this thing, this is something that I've been through, this is something that I not need to get over necessarily, but I need to familiarize myself with it to help me move forward. Within Islamically, if you talk about it, I think spirituality and getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understanding what pulls you in emotionally, and you also think about it, what helps you feel. and what helps you feel connected, whether it be just reading, whether it be, you know, watching videos, or whether it be understanding these concepts that are going around you. That's how we deal with these things as well. Writing it down. There's so many varieties of things that people can do. For me, it's meditating. For me, it's reading. For me, even on the days where it's, you know, it's literally dragging me down, I open up the Quran, the holy book, and I just look at it and look at the words and look at the, you know, short vowels, and you see how eloquently it is, and how eloquent it is actually. And you know, the way that I process through that for me helps me move a stage forward. And I come away from that and I think, I've been through this, I did this, look at where I am now, you know, and understanding that it's not, for example, if I know this is not a connective example, for example, for a woman who wants to lose weight, or a woman who wants to put on weight, or a man who wants to lose weight or put on weight, you didn't put that weight on overnight. Don't expect to lose it overnight.
Yeah.
You didn't go through this process. You didn't go through this calamity overnight. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to go through all of this overnight. That's why we call it a process. It's a step-by-step program in your head and in your life that will teach you to take the next step. One step you take the next step, and then it'll make it that much easier.
So what you're saying describes also what we do from a psychotherapeutic perspective, is when you're dealing with depression or symptoms of depression or these types of situations that kind of drag you down. It's how to work through them. And it's through step by step, tiny little steps that can really, once you accomplish, for example, getting out of bed in the morning, once you accomplish having a shower, taking care of your hygiene, or getting some food in your body, that's an accomplishment right there, where you're slowly moving towards progress, right? And that's how you, once you have a bit of energy, once you've slept well, once you've got the stress hormones in your body, then perhaps mentally you can start attacking some of these things. So somebody mentioned earlier, I was going to see if there's another question here, because somebody mentioned earlier a really good comment about toxicity and toxic people. And I think we've experienced this quite a lot during
most people have experienced this.
What was that?
I think most people have experienced this, honey.
Absolutely.
If you haven't experienced toxic people and toxicity in your life, then I wish you don't have to. However, it is a blessing in disguise. It helps you grow.
Interesting how you say that. Yeah. And I was just letting people on the Ahl Bayt Instagram to join us here, because unfortunately we got cut off. So sorry if I looked distracted here for a second. So, okay. So somebody's asking, is the live finished? No, it's not finished. We just had to switch over to YouTube. Anyhow, so when we take a look at this, it's the step by step. Each little step that you take is an accomplishment. For those of you who are used to running marathons and all of a sudden you break your leg, what do? Do you all of a sudden run the next marathon, or you take time first of all to heal, to reach yourself, to get back on track, right? And so I completely, my mind went completely off toxic people for a second. It went back to the last coherent thought I had. So toxic people, like we're saying, it's a blessing if you haven't experienced it, and it's a blessing if you have. It's interesting when you're dealing with toxic people, and even now during the pandemic, even though we're not really around each other physically, we're still experiencing that. You still feel the energy of toxic people.
It's a blessing because you recognize more. You're in kind of an environment where it's toxic in itself, and the more toxic environment you're in, the more toxicity it brings out. So,
and essentially, when you're saying the more it brings in, the more it brings out, it's about that awareness. So, for example, you're around people, you've got friends, it could be even family, it could be projects, right? And all of a sudden, these people say something to you that just feels off. That doesn't feel right. Now, it doesn't mean we have to be sensitive about everything. Absolutely, you can still toughen up to certain things and be strong and be aware. But there's a boundary that when people cross that boundary, you feel it in your gut, feel it in your chest that something is wrong here. Something is off here, right?
Exactly.
And you need to listen to your gut when it's describing to you or sending you signs and signals, right? When it comes to toxic people, but sometimes you get a physical symptom that I've actually felt from people, and I didn't realize at the time, but I felt physically ill. I felt nauseous in my stomach. And when I was talking to a friend of mine, an older friend and whom I view as an amazing mentor, she said, Berak, you're dealing with a toxic person. Imagine you just did one thing with them and you felt this way. You need to be very aware and get out of this situation. Even if you said you're committing to doing something, but if you're not feeling well around this person, your health comes first. So this is one example. Another could be at the workplace. Your boss or another coworker could say something to you that doesn't sit right with you. It just feels and you're in a position, well, you're my boss, you know, kind of thing. You know, this is you're my boss, you're my in a position of power. So then you feel that you have to do what they tell you. Then you feel like you have to listen to what they have to say. And that can be really impactful in a negative way as well, right? So it's very important that when you are feeling that something is off about family, friends, colleagues, whomever, to listen to what your gut's telling you.
Yeah, because it can, as you were saying, sorry to cut you, as you were saying, it can, if you do not listen to your gut, it makes you physically ill because you're going against the very thing that guides you to do the right thing. You know, people, you know, sometimes say, you know, it's a gut feeling, just ignore it. But no, you have to listen to your gut feeling, because until you do, it will cause you chaos. You know, you need to acknowledge this. I'm putting myself in a position. Is it good for my mental health? Is it helping me? Is it helping me move forward? Or even putting myself in a position, this person didn't say. Now, we're not talking about being sensitive or, you know, being rude or arrogant. It's not a sense of arrogancy. It's a sense of understanding what is best for me, what's going to benefit me, what good is it going to come out of it. Furthermore, even if you're not thinking about something that's good for you, is there a positive that's coming out of this in order for me to stay in this toxic situation? And even then, if it's not helping you, there's no need to move forward. You need to take yourself out of that toxic situation and environment so that you can find yourself, understand yourself, and always listen to your gut. I genuinely believe that. I believe that if you do not listen to your gut, the person that's going to be paying for it is you, because then your gut turns around, looks at you, and says, I tried to tell you, you know, I tried, and you didn't listen. So
and you know what it is, Tuka? It's not even that. You say you believe in it. There's a science behind that. There is now research that shows how your gut is connected all to your brain, your heart, and all of the stuff about gut intuition and things like that. It has to do with the vagus nerve that is connected to our brain and our emotions and all of that. And subhanallah, there's a lot around that, and it's connected to our wellness and our mental health and our stress. If our stress levels are heightened, you know, and are just skyrocketing because of all these signs and symptoms of us not feeling well, because of toxic people, because of life situations, because of whatever around us, that's a responsibility for us to take care of, to listen to our body, right? And do that. So this is new research. Like, it's still in the last few years, they've been working on this and how it's connected to psychology and how it's connected physiologically. It's amazing, subhanAllah, right? And we also know this, like, from, maybe you can recite a few, not a majlis.
Not possible.
Not a majlis, not here.
It's only for a selected gender.
Absolutely. I love your majalis, so we're not going to do that here, though. But I would say by recite, if you recall any hadith while I discuss this, from an Islamic perspective, in terms of how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even tells us, and I'm paraphrasing, is, you know, who your peers are, like who you put yourself around, right? Who you connect and interact with, the friends that are not good for you. What is the meaning behind that? They're going to have an influence on you spiritually. They have an impact on your soul. So we know that from a spiritual perspective, how it impacts you. And it's in our faith that's telling us, watch who your friends are, watch who you trust, what you talk about. What does that tell you?
It's just like, simply, even in this day and age, or if you're talking about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, do not burden yourself with things that you cannot carry. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions, you know, in the Quran about harming ourselves. Now, that doesn't have to mean, if you contextualize it, it doesn't have to mean, if you have to literally broaden your horizon when thinking about this, because harming yourself can come in different shapes and forms.
Not just physical. Yeah.
Not just physical, mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, if this specific position that you're in harms you, then take yourself out of it. It is haram to harm yourself. So for me, being in this position with my friend, no matter how much I think it's a good deed that I'm doing, I'm leveling it out with a bad deed because I'm harming myself. And even in this day and age, they say you are what you eat. So who you surround yourself with affects you so much. What you put in. Exactly. What you put in yourself affects you, your well-being, physically, mentally, everything. So when you actually think about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala values us as human beings. We're at the highest of hierarchy in his creation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala values us, and yet we do not understand ourselves enough to value ourselves enough. We have to value ourselves mentally. We have to value ourselves spiritually. If you're in a situation with people or in an environment that is toxic, you will then also be impacting your very soul, your very nafs. I say to my mum all the time, and I say to my friends and family members, I say, whenever I walk into a room or a situation or an area or whatever it is, I could be feeling so happy, so spiritually connected, but that environment feels to me so toxic, so like it's choking me. I understand that environment right there is like a manifestation of horrible things going on. What I need to do is I need to take myself out of it, because I need to calm down. I need to be able to see, can my soul and my mind bear what's happening? Can it take and actually be on a normal level? If it cannot, and I converse with myself, if it cannot, then I need to take myself out of that situation, because my spiritual well-being and mental health is so much more important than any situation I put myself in. So I need to know. The problem is knowing when to leave. The problem is knowing when you need to put yourself forward and first and take yourself out of that situation. That's the important thing, because a lot of people neglect that. A lot of people think, that person might say something about me, and that person, or they might call me biased, or you think of myself too much. But you have to understand, take yourself out of a situation, when to do it, and the right timing as well.
Easier said, though. It's easier said than done, especially specific here. It's easier said than done. And I'm sure a lot of women, when you're hearing this, and if they're in abusive situations, or even men who are in unhealthy marriages and relationships, say, well, how do I leave if there's kids? How do I leave if there's money involved? What are people going to, this is the rhetoric that we hear, that what are people going to say when they hear that we've left? What are people going to say? Because there's so much taboo around that as well, in terms of the judgment of our communities and society in general. And people put up with that. People sometimes put up with that just for the sake of the children, just for the sake of what people see about the family. What are people going to say? And what you said has so much weight and depth to it, Alwi, in the sense that we don't honor ourselves sometimes by putting others before us, right?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, if you're talking about a situation where it's an abusive marriage or it's an abusive relationship, okay, putting that aside, if there are kids involved, you need to take a step back and think, if this abusive marriage, abusive situation is affecting me in this said type of way, how is it affecting my children? People don't actually think about that. They think kids don't understand, but kids are like sponges.
They're watching everything.
They are more aware than you actually think. And what is happening is you're setting them up to think this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. And if they are awakened enough, or understanding this is not acceptable, they are being affected by this very thing. So when you're talking about keeping yourself in a toxic situation for the kids, that doesn't come into play. You can have healthy separation and healthy parenting, co-parenting and in time. However, a toxic situation in time will not be healthy. It will continue to be toxic, and you will see that effect on your children. So they're more aware than you actually think. Kids are the very first things that you should actually think about. to be honest with you, because they're more aware of these toxic situations. They are more aware than you are. And in terms of, you know, knowing when to leave, the fact that you're thinking about leaving is one of the biggest signs, because your mind, as I've said in my previous snippet, your mind controls your entire body. So before I blink, my brain receptors send, you know, to veins in my eyes and tell them to blink, and that's when my eyes blink, you know. So my mind has already moved. My mind has already separated and detached from the situation. It's my body, my capsule, that's, you know, fighting with myself. My mind's, or it's my heart that's fighting with my brain. So you have to listen to your brain sometimes as well. Obviously, you need to listen to your heart and give your heart placement, because that's what makes us, you know, innate human beings, is our heart. However, your mind moves before your body does, and sometimes we are oblivious to the signs that our brain gives us, you know.
Yeah.
And
even our surroundings, like the signs and signals of our surroundings, the people around us, sometimes we're just not listening to them, not allowing ourselves, because perhaps we're in denial, which is a form of, I would say, self-sabotage. You know, if you're not allowing yourself to face the fact of a difficult situation, whether it is this scenario that we're giving, or perhaps a friendship with somebody. You know, a lot of people like feel sorry for their a friend, so they continue being friends even though they're being disrespected. Or even coworkers, you know, they'll put up with the attitudes of different people for the sake of the team, for the sake of the work. Meanwhile, their mental health is being affected because they're not honoring themselves. They are not valuing themselves. They are not looking at what we're saying here, you see on the screen here, validating their pain. This is crucial. When we take a look at moving along here in the process, and we'll get to the next part right now, is first of all being acknowledged, like being aware of the anger, how you're feeling, giving anger its voice, because anger can be a positive thing as it spurs you forward, and especially when you use anger for the right reasons, right? Not anger just because you can't handle your temper, but it can be a great constructive motivator, right? So and so these examples that we put here, so the denial, the guilt, and the numb side of being stuck before we're able to move on, is being aware, right? Being aware. If somebody's brought up to your attention, or perhaps in our discussion today, you're suddenly aware of things that have been causing you to feel stuck, right? That awareness can then open you up. Okay, so now that we're opening up a little bit, processing, right? Then we can validate, you know what? Yes, I am angry. Yes, you know what? I am hurt. Yes, I am feeling sad. Yes, I am irritated. We need to label our emotions in a healthy way, being aware, right?
And not many people know how to do this. That's the problem. I mean, you know, and I definitely think that many things have had to happen in my life for me to acknowledge that's not right. You know, nope, not going there again. You know, I had to ride the bike and fall off for me to understand what falling off actually is. You know, I had to ride the bike and fall off for me to understand how to actually accurately ride it. I didn't see glory without pain. I didn't see understanding myself and my self-worth without this pain. So I'm going to value all of the calamities in my life. I would not be me. I would not be able to speak to you. I would not be able to, you know, the people that ask me, do you have a PhD in this? I say, no, I just have a PhD in life. You know, I'm my own life coach. You know, I coach myself, you know, because I've been through these things. And I think, you know what, there's so many times I've heard denial is the first step to acceptance, because actually denying something in your brain, it tells you, it makes you aware, you know, continuously this is happening and you're denying, this is happening and you're denying it, and then eventually you start to accept it. Denying something actually brings it into, you know, reality, and without you knowing, you're validating that said thing.
So validation is huge here in terms of also saying, you know what, it's okay to feel this way, right? That's important. Saying that to yourself. This is giving compassion. It's okay. You're allowed to feel this way given the circumstances. Now that you've given that compassion and validation, let's look at the next parts here in terms of the healing part. So we've opened up the wound. And I always say this with my own clients and patients, that you have a wound and it keeps festering and growing and you keep putting a Band-Aid That Band-Aid ain't nothing. That's not going to do anything. We need to what, Tuka? We need to rip that Band-Aid off.
Band-Aid off and deal with it, man.
Yeah. So ripping the Band-Aid off could be seen as what we mentioned here earlier in terms of acknowledging and validating, right? Saying, yeah, I am hurt. I am feeling pain, right? And feeling vulnerability. See what
it's not easy. No. A lot of people put that off.
Of course they do.
It's the harder,
easier to deny.
The harder thing is always what mankind doesn't touch upon. You know what? It's normal because we're humans and sometimes these things are difficult for us to do. But if you actually want to see, the full project in itself, you have to work hard. And working hard is not always easy. Some people don't have time for it. They just take the easy route out. But if you as a person has taken the easy route and has taken the harder route, I can 110% guarantee you would say to me the hardest way is better, because in doing something the harder way, I have reaped through the benefits and experiences, and I've benefited it from it way much more than I benefited from doing something the easy way, and not acknowledging your wound. It's like healing is like taking salt and putting it at the wound, or poking it and prodding it, and that's what we do with healing, or acknowledging that you have a wound, but just putting a plaster on it and thinking, not getting taken care of.
You call it a plaster in the
plaster.
UK?
We say plaster. You say Band-Aid.
Band-Aid too. You get plaster. You put a plaster on it. Yeah, so exactly. So I'm going to say that from now on and see what my North Americans are going to do. They say that. When you put that plaster on, like you're describing, you were temporarily just covering it, which is fine.
Yeah,
which is fine, because sometimes you need to take a situation, and I do this often, and this is a great strategy for those of you who are struggling with a situation that is taking your focus. For example, if you're a student, you have an assignment or a test, an exam to study for, or any other circumstance where you have a task that needs to get done, and you need to go somewhere, but you're stuck in the pain of a situation. So first thing is to acknowledge. Second, what we do is you put that pain in a box, right? Put it in a box, close the lid, put it on the shelf. Acknowledge it, talk to it as though it's a person, and say,
don't put it away and just pretend that it's there.
That's denial. We said we're not denying, right? We're going to acknowledge it. So give it because here's what happens. The more you ignore, push, deny, not see, what happens is it comes back harder to hit you. Bam, right? That's where you get the anxiety attacks. That's why you feel sometimes severely depressed and just fatigued, because the weight of denying something can come back and hurt you. So it's like that annoying little kid that, bless that child, mama, yuma, yum, nah, and then it's like, what?
Yeah.
You just want attention, right? So our pain or our struggle or situation, whatever it is that we're blocking and denying, if we don't put it in a box and acknowledge, say, I see you, I see you, I got you. I'm going to put you on the shelf. We almost have to talk to it like that. I'm going to put you on the shelf, and I'm going to come back to you later after I do this.
I can best deal with you.
I'll leave you later, and I'm going to come back because I have to do this now. But I see you. So acknowledge you.
You're there. Acknowledgement. Yes, indeed.
That child, when the mom's like, what? I love you. It's like, I love you too. That's all I needed. Is that you're looking at me and you get me. So the same thing with this. Whatever it is that you're denying or trying not to acknowledge, it just needs your attention and validation that, you know what, I'm giving validation to myself, and I'm allowed to be vulnerable. I can be vulnerable and still strong. Okay, so we put on the shelf. All right, so this is what I do with my clients. We put on the shelf. You go do your studies. You go meet with whomever. You got to do your thing. And when you come back to it later, you almost notice that, I'm cool now. I don't feel like I need to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
What happened here psychotherapeutically, like we just described, is that you gave the issue at hand what it needed, which was acknowledgement.
Yeah, you have to. You definitely have to. No, it's not fair. You would not like yourself to not be acknowledged in a situation. You go into an environment and you have said degree, you have said, oh, do you know what? Not even that. You go into a family environment and you are a grown adult, and you want to say your piece, whether you're the youngest child or whether you're the middle child. We all know it's the youngest child that never gets listened to, because
Bless that.
they're the youngest, they will always be youngest. So you've got qualifications, life experiences, and you want to say your piece. However, in that situation, you feel like you are not heard. How is that going to make you feel? And then the very moment that you do get heard, what you'll do is you'll pop. And that's exactly what happens with your problems. You box them up and you don't acknowledge them. And that's the bigger problem, because it just keeps growing. The problem is not growing. It's your worry and your concern in your mind. And when you come back to that problem, you think, it's so big now. I should have just dealt with it before. But I didn't acknowledge it. And you always have to come back. Even though you are acknowledging it, you say, I'm going to put you here for a while. Don't stay there. Don't stay in that situation. You can stay. If an occurrence happens to you, what are you going to do? It's okay to feel like you don't want to do anything. And it's okay that you don't want to go to work. And it's okay that you don't want to get out of bed. It's okay if you don't want to shower. It's okay if you don't want to keep up your hygiene for however long because you feel low. That's fine. Your body and your mind is giving that energy to what it needs to be sustain itself, right? But how long are you going to stay in that situation? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? Give it time. Give yourself time that you need, but don't overdo it. You need to also come back and acknowledge what you're going through and give it validity, validify, your problem so that you can deal with. Validate, sorry, yeah. That word is always a problem.
Challenging. We come like validify, validate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What's really interesting is how we are saying the same thing from the different perspectives of our worldview. That's why I wanted to have this discussion, because in our discussions offline, we really connected on some of these ideas and how we look at it from different perspectives, but saying the same thing, right? And absolutely, it's very powerful. Like one of our audience members here pointed out, is that and this is a strategy for those people who say, I'm stuck, I'm in this situation, I'm this. So this can be applied across the board, and you customize this according to your individual experience. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about boundaries. This is a fun one.
I love this one.
Boundaries, when we're talking about healing, right? And setting boundaries with people. So what's your view on boundaries, Tuka?
I mean, to be honest with you, for me, is how I respect myself. I respect myself. I give myself time. I validate myself and my needs. The way that I do that, I don't show you that I disrespect myself. Why would you disrespect me? I don't show you that I don't validate myself. There are people out there that don't validate people just because they are themselves incomplete. And that's coming up on toxic people as well, because the reason why they are so toxic to other people, whether they acknowledge it or whether they don't acknowledge it, is because they are in themselves incomplete and probably in the process of healing or haven't healed properly, whatever it can be, psychologically not fit to deal with other people. Yet, we're free human beings, so we do deal with people. However, I believe that if I set a boundary for myself and I don't go over that boundary, and I respect myself in a sense, I put boundaries between me and other people. I am your friend. I am your daughter. I am your whoever I am to you. However, I put that boundary because I believe that I deserve a set of standards and how to be treated and how to be dealt with. Now, when you come and you disrupt that foundation for me and you do not understand that, then you do not deserve to deal with me, because you do not understand the set of boundaries that I have placed for myself, even though I have shown you in my action. It's not like I'm saying I don't show myself in my actions that I validate my scarf. Like earlier on, you were talking with people who are saying, or, commenting on our appearance. It's not like we're on here not wearing hijab when we're asking people to respect and not talk about our appearance. No.
And they continued. So we set our boundaries.
Understand our boundaries. If not here, then I'm sorry, bounce. However, so I think that I've set a set example or set list of boundaries for you whether I verbally say it or whether I physically say it, if you overstep them, then you do not deserve to be in my presence. You do not deserve to communicate with me. You do not deserve to deal with me mentally or practically. None at all. Because I believe that people who do not know how to accept or respect other, you don't have to accept it, you just need to respect it. If you do not respect other people's boundaries, then you have some learning to do. And until then, I'm not prepared to be, your tutor. So learn boundaries and learn to respect other people's boundaries before you deal with other people. It just makes life a lot more easier. However, in life, nothing comes easy, and you will find yourself dealing with a lot of people that do not know how to respect other people's boundaries. And in that case, what you need to do is you need to single yourself out and take yourself out of that situation and say to yourself, you don't have to confront them, and say to yourself, look, this person doesn't know how to respect my boundaries. I choose to respect myself, Goodbye. And that's it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. So how does cancel culture work with this, right? When we're looking at, well, you didn't respect what I wanted. You said something I didn't like. So I'm just going to cancel you, because I've heard the feedback or the criticism of that from the Islamic perspective is, we're supposed to give people the benefit of the doubt. We're supposed to get, not cut people out and stuff like that. And I would say back to that, sure, we give people the opportunities, we give people the chance. For example, simple example earlier with whomever that fake account that came on.
We give a warning.
Told them, please, we're going to focus on the topic here. Do not comment on our appearance. We do not appreciate that. They didn't respect the boundary, and done. Like we don't need to tolerate more than that. It doesn't mean we don't have patience. It's exactly what you said, is that we have self-respect and we choose not to engage.
I admit that. Why would I accept anything less than that?
That's not easy to do. It's very hard to do, especially when we talk about self-worth, because then a lot of people then put their worth, and I was actually saying this in an earlier program, especially when we talk about self-esteem and how it leads to feelings and thoughts of depression that could lead to suicidality, is here we're taking a look at what we need to do is not by pleasing others, right? What we need to do and our worth is dependent upon not any of these external factors. Our worth. So listen to this thought, and I take it from this book that I've been using for years within my work, the Self-Esteem Workbook. And the thought that they talk about in terms of worth is that your worth is completely independent of any external factor.
Exactly.
This is a very powerful, provocative thought. And especially if we apply the spiritual Islamic perspective to this, is that your worth is completely dependent upon your taqwa and your relationship, piety to God, with God, not anybody, right? Exactly what Sister Zahra added here. I'm going to put that on the screen. Beautiful. But we always have to do what pleases Allah. So you are doing things to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to please other people. Of course, when it comes to parents, that there are a different set of rules and respect around that from Islamic perspective, of course.
I cannot see the comments. Really sorry.
Right? What was that?
Sorry, I cannot see the comments.
You see?
Oh, now I can. Now I can. Sorry.
So essentially, of course, this is not, again, a cookie cutter approach in the sense copy paste, all the same. We're very, very individual in terms of our situation, our circumstances, our families, our relationships. But essentially, it comes down to the same thing, is that in the end, our worth is dependent upon our connection and our relationship and what pleases Allah, not what we are trying to impress and please other people, right? And when we go back, thank you, Sister Zahra, for saying that. Absolutely. She was getting there before we mentioned it. She got the point. Bless you, sister. Yeah. So here, when we talk about self-worth, then when we talk about looking at, you see, there's almost the processing, how it's working into healing here. We talked about it's okay to be vulnerable and feeling all of these emotions here that we talked about earlier. You are allowed to feel and go through this confusion of negativity, but being and validating yourself for that. And then going through the healing process of it is going through that vulnerability, validating them, setting boundaries, or understanding your worth. And let's look at gratefulness here, being thankful and grateful. And this is a beautiful one, because we always, just the word Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
We take these words for granted. Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah. These are just right? But Alhamdulillah, the blessings that are involved with being grateful. And the more grateful you are, we know this from the Islamic traditions, the more Allah gives you, right? And it doesn't really mean physical things. And there's a psychology behind that as well, because it's about propagating that positive energy.
Indeed,
yeah. Prophetic tradition, when you propagate that positivity, tajidu, you find it. Yeah.
It's like what you give and what you put into the universe, psychologically, not psychologically, I mean philosophically, when you're talking about it, it says what you put into the universe is what you will get back to you. Right. So it's talking about from like karma as well. You have now, and everybody talks about, karma, it comes back to you. What goes around comes around as well. But in our religion, alhamdulillah, shukr, it's not about karma. It's the good that you put into the universe it's in Islam as well. It's one of the major factors as well. So the good that you put into the universe, or the good that you put into relationships with other people and in your life spiritually and mentally, is what will get put back into your life. And the negative as well is what will get put back into your life. So it's the two things. And also we believe in, coming back to what you said earlier on about, what you said previously is moderation. You can't just think I'm the best and I'm this and I'm amazing. I'm just going to take myself out of that situation because they don't deserve to be. No, you have to moderately think about this, because in Islam, moderation is key. One of our imams said, خيرة الأشياء أوسطها. The best of the things is the moderation of it. So we have to be understanding that, sometimes we give people chances and make them understand and make them aware. You can't just pack your bags and leave. You can't just, even when we were younger, you can't just leave.
Get up right away.
You can't just get up and say, oh, I'm leaving. Or we even without a warning. No, you need to make the other person understand. This faith, yes, having faith. And might point out as well that having faith in our religion is one of the biggest blessings, but one of the biggest sins in our religion is giving up hope. Right. So without validating yourself, without processing yourself, without acknowledging these mistakes, without acknowledging your personal mistakes, what you're doing is you're giving up hope in the process, in your personal process, and how far you can come from it. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Healing. When you are healing, you are believing in yourself and the higher power, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there is hope for me. Regardless of whatever calamity I've been through, I still have hope. So madam, regardless of the fact that even if I don't, if I still have hope, then there is something there that's going to make a difference for me.
And sometimes, what was that? When it comes to
I said, sorry, I cut you off from you.
Lala Azizti, thank you so much. I think this is a very strong and powerful point, what you say. And then tying it back to gratefulness, right, is when and we recommend this for people who are struggling, whether, different mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, is when we focus on gratefulness and gratitude and having that grateful attitude. So we say we do write a gratitude journal, right? And it doesn't have to be a full, every day writing everything, but at night, perhaps before you go to bed, to increase positive energy and calmness and just being at peace, we take a look at writing down things that you were grateful for. Perhaps you were grateful for the cup of delicious coffee that you got to drink today. Perhaps it was a ray of sunshine that you captured outside. Perhaps it was your child smiling at you and being happy at something silly. Perhaps it was, that's a nice hijab that I just bought today. It could be anything from the silly to light to the most
nothing silly.
That's not judging yourself, right? And it could be the most, beautiful thing is that, the person that you're secretly in love with, they return back the feeling and say, I'm in love with you, I'm married. Who knows, right? So it could be the most tiny from the tiniest things to the most extraordinary of things, right? That things that we could be grateful for. But essentially, it is the small things that we take for granted.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Especially in this pandemic right now, where a lot of people have lost their lives, families, their health, their jobs, so much khasara, so much loss during this asr, this time that we're in, that we forget about the beautiful things that we do have. For example, the pandemic has forced us into lockdowns where we are not engaging and socializing like we used to, whether it's in our mosques, our centers, at the malls, the shopping centers, you know, or wherever else, in the restaurants, or just chilling.
It's the little things. It's the little things that matter the most.
But what has this also done for us? Perhaps a lot of families have gotten closer, perhaps the healthy, obviously, and the functional families, right? They've perhaps gotten closer with their family members, working from home, being together, cooking. I also acknowledge that, of course, with difficult situations, it's made things worse for some people. Absolutely. But it's a matter of perspective of how you choose to look at things in terms of having gratitude. Right. And when you, just like we mentioned earlier, in terms of the process of processing, the process of healing when it comes to gratitude is actually focusing on the small things that you do have.
Yeah.
Little stuff that can increase that positivity, right? Now, this is an interesting one, Tuka, when we take a look at acknowledging your importance and value, because easily this can be switched over to arrogance and ego and so on and so forth, right? So what's your view on that?
I believe that if you acknowledge your importance and value, it's in itself is like self-worth. So what you have to do is you need to understand that sometimes within yourself, you don't acknowledge, I deserve this, and I'm deserving of this, and I'm deserving of that. I think Sister Berak, I don't know what happened with Sister Berak. Sorry, guys.
No, I'm still here. I was just fixing the light. Keep going.
Yeah. So acknowledging, your self-worth and value doesn't have to mean being arrogant and saying that you are better than other people, or that you are not, and putting yourself in that high pedestal and placement. Your self-worth and value when you are in a bad situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with a purpose. Now, when we're talking about a purpose, is we will not leave this earth unless we have fulfilled that purpose. So understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, acknowledges our importance. Why be it so hard for us to acknowledge our importance as well? So acknowledging that and acknowledging our importance as one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations and valuing ourselves is one big thing. And looking at our self-worth, what do we deserve? Giving ourselves something as smaller than what we deserve is a big thing. For example, you being in a situation and you're not being heard, or you're not being validated, you're not being understood. What you need to do is you need to admit that for yourself. Understand your self-worth. Understand your value. I am a person. I'm an intellectual being. I'm academic, and I understand I'm not incompetent, and I understand that I am put in so many situations and in positions for me to learn and grow. However, in growing, you outgrow these situations for a reason, and you are put in different situations for a reason. You don't wear the same shoes as you did when you were younger.
No, you've outgrown them.
And there's comes back to the process again. So self-validation and self-worth is acknowledging who you are and what you deserve. It's not being, thinking of ghulu, or thinking of yourself that you are better than anybody else. No, but it's also acknowledging the people around you as well. You can't leave people out. You have to acknowledge the worth of people around you. You have to also acknowledge, the value of people around you as well, while also considering yourself. And that's how you know. If you do that, that's how you know that you are valuing and validating yourself in the right way, because you're not also just considering yourself, you're considering the people around you. And in that way, you're accurately, collectively thinking, this must be done like this must be done like that. For example, if I'm put in a situation or a conversation that I'm not academically fit to talk about, or I'm better yet, I'm learning. I need to have that self-restraint to be able to say, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question because I'm not academically fit or schooled enough to be able to emerge in this conversation with you. And understanding my point of view and my self-worth and my value just comes apparent more because they think, you know what, look, this person understood their limitations, whether they are growing, whether they choose to grow, whether they don't, they understood their limits. And understanding your limits as well is the same as valuing yourself and understanding yourself as well.
Like not going where you cannot go. It doesn't mean that you don't try your best or you work hard towards that. That's not what we're saying. And I really value, Tuka, what you said, because I think it's really important. There's a balance between self-esteem, right? And lifting your self-esteem and also being aware, acknowledging your importance, but also setting your boundaries and limits.
Yeah, because you can also you can lift other people while lifting yourself. And how much more amazing is that? Like, I actually think about it, you know, I used to do that with my friends a lot. And they, you know, whenever I get a birthday card, they say, you know what, I feel so grateful to have you in my life because whenever I need advice, it's always you. You give me the best advice and everything. So it's before that. And I say, you know what, the fact that you're recipient to it, the fact that you're open to it and understanding to it is the main reason why I can give you advice. The fact that you value me makes me value myself even more. Nonetheless, I don't need people to value me to understand my self-worth and value. However, understanding that you are not there to fix people, or you're not there to make people acknowledge your self-worth and value. Just make sure that you know it yourself, so that when people say to you, you know, you're not worth it, and you know, it's like if someone was to tell me I'm going to change skin color or that my name is something other than what my name is, it's not going to have an effect on me because I am so secure in who I am that to the point it doesn't touch me or move me. If someone says to me, oh, you know what, your religion is this and your religion is that, and I just say, you know what, if I find the need to speak about it and defend my religion, I will, and believe me, I will. However, if I find that I'm so secure in my religion and in my beliefs and I'm at one with it, that I don't say, okay, I'm sorry, that's your opinion. And that is what self-worth and value is. When you know who you are and what you are and you value yourself, and just that, your foundation is already built. So nobody can move that for you.
I think this leads beautifully into the concept of self-love. And it's such an interesting hip word that is used these days in terms of, I'm worth it, I deserve this, and it's so materialistic and it's so, you know, cosmopolitan and like hip, and
the way that self-love is used nowadays, it's a problem because, you know, it's not used in moderation, it's the wrong way.
And especially, you know, maybe it's not the most appropriate time to mention this, but the thought just occurred to me, you know, when you hear a lot of young women or women who decided to take off their hijab, they're saying, you know, this doesn't fit with me. I'm loving myself by taking off the hijab so I can get closer to God my own way. You know, you hear this kind of, you can see your expression, you're holding back your emotions here. So I appreciate you holding back.
I'm not qualified to speak about said subjects, so I will. I'm kidding.
You know, but it's interesting when you hear this kind of rhetoric used in this example, or for example, you know, I am going to buy out my credit card because I'm giving myself self-love. I think there's such a wrong understanding what self-love is, especially as Muslims, right? And I've talked about this a few times now, and I'm actually learning about it as well in a course that I'm taking. And it's so interesting to understand it from an Islamic perspective rather than this Insta world that we're living in that is about instant gratification and just giving back to yourself. And when you look at it from that angle of especially social media, where you're people putting themselves out there, self-loving themselves, they think of themselves as something of importance and value to people. And I'm using it in a negative way here, not a positive way, right? So this is where arrogance, riya, ujub, all of this comes into play, where they are valuing themselves above the Lord, so to speak, right? And we were talking about how your value here and your worth is dependent upon this, not this, right? So self-love, if you don't know yourself well, you don't, to know your Lord, know yourself, right? And vice versa here. to get closer to God, really work on getting to know yourself and being solid in value.
Exactly.
This is what love is. This is what that self-love is. It's that connection and with God and spirituality, as opposed to the material, right? The material. It's all about that spirituality and valuing and loving yourself for a goal. So again, from this angle, we're looking at balance in life. We're looking at goal towards al-akhirah as opposed to the dunyawi goals.
Yeah, of course.
People are putting and immersing themselves in that self-love. What are your thoughts on that? Because I see yourself bouncing and itching to answer this one.
To be honest with you, I think this is one of my most valued subjects, self-love. However, it does dishearten me a bit because I think the way that people express self-love and everything is in such a wrong way nowadays, and it goes against the very thing of what Islam is actually really about, and I feel like Islamically, talking about it in the religion of Islam is based upon, such eloquent peace and serenity. Most of our acts in our religious acts is, if you actually interpret it to this day and age, it's actually like meditation and spirituality guiding you through life. Right? That's why we say it's a lifestyle, right? However, when you're talking about self-love, you're not just talking about your physical appearance. Now, if you were to actually have an intellectual conversation with a person who was physically attracting and a person who was physically okay, but they grasp you with their intellectuality, where would you go? You would maintain your conversation with this person who is academically fit, and the fact that they speak with such eloquency and they will grasp you to the point you can't move on from that conversation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us to educate ourselves and feed our minds. This is the very thing that makes mankind superior to any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations, obviously after the infallibles and stuff, because at the end of the day we are fallible human beings, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed the first ayah to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and then he said in that first ayah the first ayah he said was Iqra, right? And I wonder if you were to ask this to a lot of people, would they understand what the meaning and value of this is? It has so many different meanings and so many different interpretations. Iqra means educate yourself. Iqra means like bahth, like search. Iqra means, understand, learn, nurture. And that in itself, to me, in my perspective, is what self-love is. I'm giving my mind the sustainability to continue to go on, because if I don't educate myself and if I don't give my brain, its sustenance, it won't be able to evolve in the right, because your brain can evolve, but there's a right way in doing it and there's a wrong way in doing it. So I believe self-love, if you value yourself enough, value your mind, and the context that you're putting into the things that you read, educate. You don't know what this word means, go look at different references and read it. You don't know what something Islamically means, or what the rulings on said thing or whatever. Don't just go ask your family members, because you know what, their education might be limited. So what you need to do, which is the problem with most people in our day and age, we also ask our elders. Obviously they are wiser, they do know more. However, everything evolves and changes. So feed your mind and love yourself through your mind and intellectuality. That way you can enhance yourself, not just, mentally enhancing yourself. You can physically enhance yourself. Now, remember, when you're thinking about it, if a person who is intellectual and well within secure with what they are saying, they would walk into a room and sit on that panel with their shoulders back and their head high. Why? Because they are so secure in what they are saying. They are so secure in what they know, because they have nurtured their mind. And that is self-love. That's what self-love is about. I mean, meaning to me, to be honest.
And yeah, I connect with that idea, and I think a lot of people connect to that same interpretation of what self-love is.
Yeah.
And from an Islamic perspective, this is what we are taught what self-love is, right? It's always comes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right?
Mhm.
So let's finish up with these two thoughts here before we go into the last part. And already we're almost hitting we've passed the hour mark big time, almost an hour and a half now. Alhamdulillah. It's such a beautiful flow of a discussion. Inshallah, our audience members are enjoying this as much as we are. So let's look at quickly before we jump to forgiveness, let's look at subconsciousness. This is a very powerful one, and you can do a whole session on this, but essentially our subconscious is what happens with not with our conscious awareness, right? So it's happening in the back of our mind, perhaps in the sleep, in our dreams, or it's connected to your gut as well, right? If you think about it, right? The things that are happening that come back and perhaps tell you something like that, perhaps past trauma, past memories, past anything, keep playing in your subconscious and come out depending on what the event around you triggers you or reminds you of that. What are your thoughts on that, Tuka?
I just think, to be honest with you, depending on your spiritual guiding and spiritual connection, I believe that so many times where I've gone through a situation and I've subconsciously disconnected, and I didn't listen to myself enough, and I didn't give value to my subconsciousness, knowing that I know very well, this situation, it differs from that situation. However, our minds, as we were saying prior to this, is very vast. Our minds can, I've seen so many videos as like you can meditate and clear your mind in a way where you can think differently. You can reprogram it's a very, very, very powerful thing. Now, when you're not connected to your mind and you're not thinking, you're too into your calamities and you're too into your struggles, and we're innate human beings. It's something that happens and it's normal. And if you are going through that, and you are watching, you will come out of that and you will tune on. And at that point, when you do tune on, please listen to it because it will benefit you. So subconsciousness, you are in a situation, subconsciously your mind is telling you, no, this is not good. And your mind will continue to do this. The mind will continue to do that with you. Now, the more spiritually connected to whether you are, whatever religion you are, man, woman, the more you are spiritually connected to something, we obviously are with Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So this is how we spiritually connect. And I believe that the more you are spiritually connected, the more your subconsciousness has got a fire underneath it. Right. And now the more you continue to grasp on it, the more that fire will continue burning, right? If you don't give fuel to that fire, what's going to happen? The wind's going to come and it's going to blow it out.
Right.
However, your spiritual connection to these entities is what keeps the fuel pouring. And what keeps it burning is your soul. So your soul is connected to your subconsciousness. And if your soul is not connected or you're disconnected in that part, what's going to happen is it's all going to fall. So I believe that spirituality is definitely key. And I believe that taking baby steps, because even in a past snippet that I've done, I just feel like people that are going through calamities and are going through hard times, and it's very, very understanding, for mankind to go through this thing, it just kind of burns them out. And somebody says, oh, just go read Quran, or just go pray, or, just go do this, just go do that. And at that moment, they have so much on their plate. It's like, you are not causing them to go closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the very thing that we want anyway. Right. What you're doing is you're driving them away from something. Like a mother and a son, if she continues to says, I don't like your wife, I don't want this, and I don't like this person, what you're doing is you're pushing them away. You're pushing them, towards that thing that you do not want them to go to. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to understand that you are human and that you are of understanding and at one with yourself. You are very, very powerful. However, when you're not one with yourself and you're not spiritually connected, you're not subconsciously there. So you need to take baby steps, open up a book, write about it, read ziyarah, do tasbih or
anything that
go
brings you
out in nature and see the beauty, the very beauty in Allah's creation. That in itself is faith and spirituality, and that will spark something in you. And
right.
that in itself is subconsciously understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these very small insects that we can't even see.
Right.
How is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can leave me out? And that's in
Beautiful
yourself. When
looking
you
at it.
come to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of this entire universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's in God's hands. I to be honest with you, sometimes I find myself worrying about said things, and I say, you know what, why am I worrying about what's in the hands of the created rather than worrying about what the very creator will do for me? You know? Yeah, so I heard that.
I love that. You know, why are we worrying about what the created are thinking when it is the creator that we need to be? You know, that brings you, when we talk about everything you said, the subconscious you were describing, it reminds me of what we do in therapy is being present, right? Presence and being present in the moment, right? Being present, meaning being aware and woke, I guess, using the hip word woke, right? Being present in the moment and having that presence of mind and being mindful. So mindfulness has to do with observing your emotions and feelings without engaging with them, especially if there's, let's say, a lot of negative emotions. We don't want to get caught up in the trauma of that, but observing and letting it wash through you. And of course, these are practices we do with meditative therapies, right? Or just meditation, mindfulness, body relaxation techniques and things like that. And then the beautiful talk to come into this final part of forgiveness here. I think we're so hard on ourselves, right? We spoke about earlier about the superwoman, right? The superwoman syndrome that my friend Zainab actually recently spoke about. She did a really great job describing that. But I think we are so harsh on ourselves sometimes, right? We don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't give ourselves enough love. We don't give ourselves enough compassion. We're very judgmental. And this is about ourselves. Now, this doesn't mean you slack off. This doesn't mean that you don't work hard. This doesn't mean that you work on your mistakes. No, it's quite the opposite.
Acknowledge the mistakes that you make.
Yeah, like we make mistakes. And so Allah is constantly, you know, the Ghafoor, and teaches us how to go through that forgiveness process, right? And always that opportunity for repentance and working. But also sometimes, you know, and I hear this a lot from, you know, a therapist's position of hearing people who are, let's say, coming from families that are broken, right? Or things like that, where there seems to be so much pain there, right? Or things that they said or done to other people, but mostly to themselves. They're so hard on themselves, right? And so working with that,
guilt as well.
Yeah. So we're working through all of this in terms of the healing part. I think it wraps up nicely with the self-love concept and forgiveness concept of, if Allah is the all-forgiving, who are we not to forgive, right?
Who are we not to? Exactly.
Right.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like, forgives us on a daily basis. And you not forgiving yourself comes back again to not having hope.
Right.
And not having hope is one of the biggest sins. Now, can you imagine, of all of the sins that you can do, one of the biggest sins is to not have hope? What does that teach you? It teaches you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's doors are continuously open for you. Allah waits for you for that moment that you say, Astaghfirullah. And in that very sense is you're forgiving. You know, when you forgive, when you forget that there's hope and you do so many sins, one of the biggest things that will get taken away from you is the remembrance of istighfar. Now, can you imagine how much value astaghfirullah has?
It's a form of prayer.
The ability for you to forget to say istighfar. And the moment that you remember, you say istighfar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is waiting for you on an edge for you to come back. I heard something today, and I had to sit down, because it says you can go and you can be so far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah would put you through calamities just so that you can come back to Him. It's like having that one friend that always calls you and you think, oh my God, this person is calling me because they need something. I'm not going to answer. I'm just
Yeah,
not
good
going to
for
do it
you.
to myself anymore. I value myself so much. This person doesn't know my boundaries. I'm going to, I'm not going to answer because I know my boundaries. That's the wrong way, by the way,
Yeah.
Hence why we're doing, hysterical body movements and So, but then if you think about it, when we are in a calamity, and when we are going through something that is bad, or when we need something, who do you call upon? You don't ask your mom, oh, mom, I'm doing that. Oh, dad, or, lucky for those people who still have their parents around, mashallah, alhamdulillah. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as soon as you think, before your lisan, before your mouth postures to speak, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in your mind and says, I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here to answer you. And that's exactly the very thing, for you to have the ability to understand that you are going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking that forgiveness, and understanding that stop being so hard on yourself. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive you, who are you to not forgive? Who are you to not forgive yourself? And being harsh on yourself, knowing that you live in this, especially if you're born in this day and age. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, I do not fear anything for this ummah. He says, what I fear for is for the ummah that's to come, our generation, because they're going to be living in such calamities so far away. What are we far away from? The ability to have faith in something, the ability to be waiting on our Savior, Allahumma ajil waliyaka al-faraj, the ability to wait on our Savior, and forget all your other calamities. You're far, if you live here, Canada, America, Australia, China, wherever you are, if you do not live in Iraq, you are living in a continuous calamity. And I watched on a documentary, there's this old man, inshallah, not taking up too much time, but I actually think that this is something that people need to hear. There's this old man and he could barely walk, and he was walking for the 10th. He's trying to reach to Karbala, Sahih Imam Hussain.
You're talking about, yes.
He was trying to reach there. And then the man stopped in the camera and says to him, are you not tired? Oh, poor you, you're doing this and you're doing that. And he said to him, and it's in all Arabic. So he said to him, where are you coming from? He said to him, I'm coming from, America, or I'm coming from the UK. So the man said to him, do you not come here all the time? So the reporter said, no, I'm just coming for a documentary and I come here where I can. And he says, and you feel sorry for me? He says, I'm here. He says, oh, I feel so sorry for you. How do you live? Where do you go when you have pain? Where do you go when you want someone to talk to? Where do you go when you just want to pour your heart and soul? He says, I come here. He says, I come to my imam. You have to get in a plane and travel all the way here. You're so far away. Poor you. I wish you a blessed life. Now look at the way we interpret this guy. He lives in Iraq. He doesn't have the blessings that we have, alhamdulillah, but he's blessed with the most glorified blessings to be next to our imam on the very land of where our imams are buried in. So forgiving yourself, regardless of the calamities that you're going through, understanding that you are a human being, being kind to yourself, being kind to your soul. You can only do so much as a human. So forgive yourself, understand that you have problems, and understand that you're only human, and understand that you need to learn. You can't just get on a bike and ride it. We were talking about this earlier. You can't just get on a bike and ride it straight away. It's a process. And one of the most valued ones for me is, the learning one, and thinking about our inner beauty, self-love and forgiveness. They're really, really big topics for me. Really close to my heart.
Bless you. You've done such a powerful job of bringing it all together. And essentially, when we look at it from a psychotherapeutic perspective, and people who are so hard on themselves, I always come back and say this to them. You would never actually say these harsh, terrible things to your friend, to other people, Why would you say it to yourself? You just pause there for a second. It's almost like that child where you tell him not to smoke, yet you still smoke, right? It's the same concept, right?
Yeah, it's hypocritical.
It can be hypocritical, but I don't think it's done deliberately with the,
Yeah, but that's how it works to the child. Oh, you hypocrite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But then to ourselves, right? We are being hypocrites to ourselves in the sense that, we give beautiful advice to others. We support others. We give beautiful words to others. But what about your nafs? Your nafs has a right on you that needs your compassion and love, that needs your forgiveness. And yes, we make mistakes. We said, we go through that forgiveness process through Allah. We also, with ourselves, also with each other. I know it's easier said than done because there are just some things we just can't forgive for people. We'll forget them. We'll forget the pain. We'll forget what they've done, but take the lesson. But forgiveness will say, Allah, that's in your hands with them, right?
Exactly.
This concept here about yourself is don't be so hard on yourself. Push yourself to get things done to the best of your abilities. You work towards your kamal in terms of your own perfection because we're imperfect, right? So we work towards that because that's what we're always striving towards. But understand that your potential today may not have been the same as before, may not be the same as tomorrow. You go at your potential, what you have now, right? So, again, there's so much more to bounce off of here to our last part, inshallah, which is taking a look at growth, right?
Wow.
Consistency, like you see that we've gone through that. We've gone through this whole process right now, right? And we're in this last part of growth now, doing it through consistency, through purpose, social acceptance, but acknowledging our own, right? Not dependent upon others, communication, contentment, success, and change. Let's start with your thoughts. And I mean, we can just have one conversation. We don't have to go through all of these. What are your thoughts around growth, Tuka?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think in the previous snippets, if anybody has seen the snippets on my Instagram, which I do post daily, you've seen them, just about. So I post one about,
discussion. That's why. Talks and discussions, and I'm like, what do you think of this thought, or what do you think of that? We're almost maintaining ourselves very professionally right now because. We are. Alhamdulillah, we're respecting our hijab right now in our position. But definitely these snippets, I think that I've personally been impacted by your snippets and our discussions. And as much as I'm a seasoned therapist, when I'm listening to you talk, Alwiya, I just forget that I'm actually part of this broadcast because I'm so in tune with what you're saying. And I think it's a testament to your work as a khadimat al-Ahl al-Bayt. Because you give such a beautiful presence and you can just feel the energy. I just cannot wait to be in your presence, inshallah, again in a majlis.
Inshallah. I cannot wait either. I cannot wait to be able to do them again. You do not understand how much of a hasra it is to not be able to be in that environment. It's as much as it is for you as it is for me. It's spiritually cleansing. The way that you see us do khidmah and you value our khidmah, the fact that we're khaddam and the fact that we're all of this, but you don't know that this for us is a spiritual cleanse. It's something to think that, wow, like when you get chosen to win the lottery, I swear on my very being, on everything that I believe in, every majlis that I get called for and everything that I get to do, the Ahl Bayt, it's like I've won that and then some. It's such a blessing to be able to be considered a khadim, having that attached to your name. That's the one thing that I am grateful for, and I will always be grateful for that. When I get buried on my grave, it will have khadma on it. And that's the one thing that I will carry and I would want to carry on with me. Alhamdulillah. So you were talking about growth.
Yeah, it's a little bit off topic there. But I actually got teared up right now just remembering how it's been so long since our ziyarah and spiritual and just being in the presence of a majlis where
it's very, very difficult. But this is it. This is what we were talking about. This pandemic has affected everyone in a different way, but I think for us, people who are consistently doing khidmah every single day, or for straightforward, morning to night, for 2 months, or even throughout the year, it's something very different to us. We feel at a loss. We feel like our a part of our soul has been taken away.
Absolutely, because we have been, for those of us who are used to majalis and the spiritual gatherings and cleansing of these majalis and how sacred they are, they were consistently part of our purpose. Huh?
Yeah.
It was consistently part of our contentment, our place of change. And
Yeah.
this is where I personally, like you, I find growth in these majalis. Always, whenever I hear the mulaya or the lecturer, whoever is presenting, I always learn something new when you put your mind to it and your focus that you can apply in your daily life, right? And I see your cat is deciding to join us.
He was sleeping.
My cat somewhere is off sleeping.
Excuse the background. We're going through renovation at the moment.
Alhamdulillah, looks really like a very cozy studio place right now. It's really pretty. So yeah, like it's interesting how, you know, we're talking all about from a psychological, from a practical, but you notice every single theme we've spoken about comes back to spirituality and God and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the Prophet. For us, it's part of our lingo. It's part of our consistency. It's part of our direction, our purpose. Everything we do, from the pain that we have experienced through that processing, through the healing process itself and growth, I can safely say it's a part of that. And if you grab my cat, I'll grab my cat. He just came to join us.
I have to get up. I don't want to get up.
Okay.
Oh, he's left.
Let me see if I can grab my cat. He's fighting. I'm going to knock down my screen behind me.
Yeah.
Hello. There we go. Where's yours? Did he not come?
He's at the door right now.
So Loz is like, whoa, it's so bright in here. So are you grabbing yours?
Well, no, he's tugging on something. Yeah, sorry.
If he
comes here, I'll grab him.
Yeah, this guy realized I'm actually been allergic to him this whole time I've been home during the pandemic, and I've been coughing and sneezing in my programs, just saying, oh, it's just this or that. I actually got tested and I'm allergic to him, so we'll see how fast I'll start coughing.
See the love we have? SubhanAllah.
Yeah, no, so he's gonna still stay. I just go grab him, grab your cat, grab your cat. You gotta grab your cat there.
He's very loving, so he'll sit in my lap. Don't worry.
So now, you know, just taking a time out. These are good feels right now. So this warrants a picture right now.
Oh yeah, wait. Let's take a picture, Rocco.
We're gonna take a picture of our cats that decided to join us in our program. This is next level funny.
Hello.
Gotcha. That's hilarious. So we'll let them go. Yeah, I'll let him go when he's ready to leave. He's like chilling right now. So in terms of pet therapy, this is too funny. Like these guys, like they have a huge role to play, I would say, in our growth process, because they teach us, like animals teach us so much love, and especially children, right?
Yeah.
They can teach children responsibility. They can teach children compassion, how to take care of another being, right? And they're quite beautiful. So your kitty cat decided to leave the program.
He wants to jump on my desk and on the laptop, so I don't think that was
good. No, Loz is still sitting here chilling, you know. Oh, there we go.
He wants to jump on.
Yeah, no, these cats have been a huge part of
definitely
our growth process and healing process, and alhamdulillah. Oh, he's gone. So let's get back, I guess, seriously, and I try to wrap this up, right? So when we look at consistency from a psychotherapeutic perspective, we're always looking at routines, developing routines that can develop into healthy habits, right? Healthy. So for example, we focus on looking at eating well, right? Because we talked about earlier, what you put in your body has a huge impact on you. Exercise, getting rid of stress hormones that are built up in your body, right? Making sure you proper sleep. If that's off balance, that's going to hurt you and impact you as well, right? And then taking a look at, like we said, toxicity in terms of people around you, being in a toxic environment. So consistently working on healthy routines to develop good, healthy habits is very
cleaning out your system.
Absolutely. And it's a huge part of that growth, right?
Continuous. It has to be continuous. You have to continuously be active in this thing so that you can learn to understand the triggers, understand the signs of, wait, this is not right. You know, this is not good for me. Like, your body knows when you are putting something in your body. And me, I haven't been able to eat meat for a very long while now. My body just doesn't agree with it because I cut meat out. I know that Islamically every 40 days you have to have a bit of meat. So I do that anyway. But having a huge amount of meat actually does affect my body. So right now I understand the benefactors of having meat. So I slowly progress to get my body back used to it. Am I going to force it straight away to deal with this big thing and affect my body? No. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay consistent. However, I'm going to do it bit by bit, and understanding that I'm not capable to take such big amounts at the moment, you know, and taking it back into reality within any life situation. Staying consistent is the biggest thing to understand. It, you know what, I can do this every single day. You know, like affirmations. I've seen so many things on these different apps like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, of these people, of this one man, you know, he talks about these women who have given birth to kids and stuff like that. And they've been in relationships where these men, you know, criticize their bodies and criticize their looks and saying, and he says, you know what, if you, sorry, going off topic here. He says, if you don't have stretch marks and you don't have this and you don't have that, I'm sorry, you're not woman enough for me. Wow. You know, and he's actually impacted so many ladies. Horrible. You know, to look at themselves in the mirror. You know, his catchphrase is, "Oh, we like that." That's his catchphrase.
Very sexist and
yeah. So what he does, this woman came up and she said, "I looked in the mirror today and I said, I am beautiful, I'm amazing, and I am." She said, "I didn't believe it one bit, but then I didn't turn around and I said, oh, we like that." You know, and it's impacted her and her life, and she's consistent. She looks at herself in the mirror every single day and she said, I'm amazing and I look beautiful and I'm deserving and I am worthy. And that's what you need to do. You stay consistent with your soul, consistent with your mind, and physically, not just mentally, physically consistent at what you're doing.
Ahsanti. And this is also part of, if you think about it from our Islamic traditions, for example, with salah, consistency when you're creating a routine of ibadah and spirituality, spiritual cleansing, Shahr Ramadan Mubarak, and how we're always encouraged to
add.
Sorry?
It's a much more difficult thing for women, I might add, obviously with said reasons. You know, you can stay consistent with salah and then you'd have an occurrence that will just come and take you off rock. And that you would have to come and stay consistent again, go back to salah after a week or 10 days or whatever. And then, you know, be so powerful and consistent in your salah and feel like you're at your peak and, oh my God, I've got my salah on check and everything. And then, you know, get it disrupted. But one advice I would give to our sisters is, even if you cannot pray for Islamical reasons and stuff like that, at that time, open the Quran or do tasbih and sit down on the sajada for at least 5 minutes. And if you don't want to remove that consistency and just do tasbih, even though you actually can't pray, do another spiritual act in order to help you stay in that pattern.
Exactly. And that's a powerful thing to do. Somebody mentioned here, praying on time. Allah will be with you all the time, as Allah is always with us. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's very difficult if you can't pray on time. And sometimes you are going through so much calamity, getting out of bed is a big, you know, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very understanding with us, even when we're going through calamities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala waits for us to come back to him, like what we were saying earlier, you know, and having people saying, oh, you should pray, or you should read a book, or you should do this. It's kind of very condescending to them at that moment. It's like,
you're saying that there's something wrong with them in that sense. Like,
exactly.
Well, you should do this.
Acknowledge their mental health, acknowledge that their anxiety probably won't get cured. Okay, if you continue to tell them, you know, praying will cure your anxiety. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of everything. You think he can't cure your anxiety without anything? Of course he can. But at that moment, you're not in the right mental state to be acceptable to this. So just be easy on yourself, you know, and if you feel like that prayer is not going to solve it, continue to do other things until you believe and you understand and you see that prayer solves your problem.
You know, I actually had to experience that a few times with some students that came in, and they're Muslim students. So they see me right away. They're like, oh, she's going to know all the haram I've done, you know, and then we sit down and get into the discussion. And then what we do is we end up talking about the issues that brought them into session, and we focus on that.
Yeah.
And when they start saying things like, you know, I've stopped praying, I've stopped this, stopped that, and
Yeah,
I'll come back to them and say, so what would you like to do then? I actually did reverse psychology one time when one student, and he said, you know, I don't feel like praying, and I don't want to pray right now, and I just can't. It's because of his mental state at the moment. He was very severely depressed. So my answer to him was, okay, so don't pray right now. My answer, the Muslim counselor, don't pray when you go.
I bet you were in that moment. He thought, wait, hold on a second. Are you sure? Yeah.
So I said, don't pray. And then that kind of confused him a little bit. And it's exactly what you said, Tuka, which was he needed to be at the space where mentally he was capable to doing it. But I told him, okay, so you don't feel like praying, but you know, when it's time to pray, get up and pray anyways, even if you're not feeling it. Just get up and do it, because then you stay consistent, like you were saying. Because he came back and said, I want to do it, but I don't feel like it. Said, okay, so what if you were to do this? Pray anyways, after I said don't pray, because he came back and gave me the look like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. So the reverse psychology worked brilliantly here. It's not going to work all the time, right? But took the chance because I knew what the fertile ground was. This person showed their intentions. They want to, but they're struggling. So we talked about forgiveness.
Sorry to cut you up. I think that one really important thing to add here is that when we also have to consider when these people, or me or I or whoever is going through a spiritual disconnect, we have to understand the root of why. Why are we staying away from something that we know is a cure for us? Why? The main reasons, personally, is most of the time I think that I am not deserving. Not deserving to be in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've done so much wrong. I've done so much mistakes. Or this person came to me and says, who am I? You think that God's gonna accept my prayers, or God's gonna answer me this and God's gonna answer me that? I said, you know what? I know that God's not gonna fail me in giving you this advice. However, go speak to God. Speak to God as you would speak to your friend, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands all languages. You know? It says, and say, Allahumma khfir li adh-dhunub allati tahbis ad-du'a. And then you say in yourself, you ask for what you want. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't reject you. There's also a hadith that Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, do you know what he says? He says, when asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, you need to say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Be on wudu, so that you are pure. You're sitting in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Then ask for your haja. These three things, if I'm not mistaken. Inshallah, if I'm mistaken, I will put it up on my Instagram. You guys can see it. And the guy says to him, you know, I've been asking and asking and asking. And he says, Imam Sadiq, he said, have you done this? And he said, no. But why? He said, because in itself, when you're saying, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, it's a request and it's a dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah cannot reject. And when answering one prayer at a time, he has to answer both in the same request.
So powerful.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you understand?
Yes.
So I said to this person, I said, go say that and go ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I've been far away from you, but I need this and I need this. And if you get your request and you don't get denied, make an oath to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I kid you not, that person called me Salat Subuh. They called me and said, you know what, I'm on the sajada because I just got confirmation that the unit accepted me. And you know what, it was so late. How did that happen?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So this is the very thing that sometimes people feel disconnected because we do not feel worthy. We do not feel like we can connect from someone that we've disconnected for so long, and then that does come back to the sin of not hoping, of taking away hope. It does come back to, you know, having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, and connectivity. So I don't know.
Somebody meant, no, you do know. You do know. You said it beautifully well and very beautifully spiritual and inspirational. We see here, Sister Zahra said, but we try our best and just try to do it on time. So she's referring to prayer, but in anything really. And I have a hard life and facing very hard time. And the only thing keeps me strong. So that's beautiful that this sister uses her form of consistency and her purpose. Yeah. And communication here, when we talk about communication, is communication with God, communication with each other. Sometimes we assume that people know what we are trying to say or what's inside, but for your body language, which is 80 to 90% of your nonverbal communication is through your body language. It's only 10 to 20 of what you say, but it's also how you say it in your body, right? But we still cannot assume, especially with partners, husbands and wives, parents and children, friends, you know, and Tuka, you and I've had great talks of communication and being, you know, open and clear on things. And this, I think, is a beautiful base of friendship. And I see this a lot with young men and women who are trying to get to know each other for marriage. And, you know, I'm not going to point out a gender thing here, but some are better than others because of personality when it comes to communication, but it can be a gender thing.
It's in both genders. Sometimes women are better, sometimes men are better. And it's just astonishing, you know?
It's how you say it. Now, I'm just going to give a quick resource that I do have on communications, like practical communication for couples who are interested. So these two, here we are. So, and I knocked everything over here. So there's this great book called, and I'm sure you come across it, The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gray Chapman. This book here, if we take a look at it, is very powerful in the sense that it gives you the basic communication, understanding what your love language is, right? And I actually told my siblings before they got married, you guys need to read this book here and another one, because we're born into knowing this stuff, especially the opposite gender, for different personalities, different upbringings, culture, worldviews, etc. So for good communication, for helping you with growth, especially for those who are looking for marriage, looking for anybody really, not just marriage, by the way. So this is excellent. It teaches you the 5 languages, which are quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So it's really important to know your own so that you can know another's. Another great one, this one's specific for couples, is a whole series. I bought the entire series on this. Men are from Mars, men are from women.
Intellectuality and feeding your mind.
Yeah, and these are great,
especially right there.
Yeah, like in relationships, learning a lot about yourself, help about others. And this is what Dr. John Gray does. And, you know, this is a pop culture book that came out years ago that people give it, you know, the title, Men Are From Mars. I bought this one book that my colleague had in her office, and I went and bought my own and bought the entire series. And I had so many different books on communications and relationships, because I'm actually trained in my least favorite of counseling, which is couples counseling, my least favorite. But I have tons of resources. I couldn't stand those resources. And this series is amazing. It comes in so many different languages as well. It's a page turner. And some of the most basic things that we take a look at in terms of men and women and understanding is understanding, for example, how to motivate the opposite gender, understanding how we speak different languages, understanding, discovering our different emotional needs. This is key here. How to avoid arguments, how to score points with the opposite gender, how to, my favorite chapter, and I actually have this chapter separate because I send it to my own patients, how to communicate difficult feelings.
Yeah.
It's a really big one here, because sometimes, especially with friends, close family, partners, it's just a lot of emotion involved. And when emotion's involved, it can blur and distort your logic and intellectual communication, right? And it's normal, like, this is the emotion center of our brain right here. And when it's flaring, logic is gone, no thinking, we just base it on that, right? So somebody mentioned here that Men Are From Mars, and
an amazing book and hilarious.
Absolutely. The funny parts, which I didn't mention, are the chapters on how they call, the author says that the men are the Mr. Fix-It and the women are the Home Improvement Committee, right? And how women are always like wanting to, and men are always trying to fix the problem, right? How men go to their caves, right, when there's a problem, and how women like to talk. We like to talk, right? These are generalizing because there are the opposite. And I've actually come across people when I've spoken about this, where they say, actually, I'm the female, I'm the one who doesn't like to talk, and my husband's exactly the way you're describing women. So subhanAllah, sometimes it's the opposite, right? So I highly recommend for people who want basic communication when it comes to relationships with marriage, this is great. This book here is wonderful to learn more about you, but also how you communicate and interact with the people around you, not just with your partners, with your friends. Even they have these even for people at the workplace, different and so on and so forth. Because when you are not, I just want to come back to this one because it really covers a lot of what we're talking about here. And I get very passionate about it.
If people are interested in it, maybe we can just, put them up on our Instagrams and stuff like that so that people
I always post these books. I'm always posting them. Yeah.
Oh,
but I just when we look at all of the growth aspect here, I think this is really important. This section here, in terms of, it was right in front of me and it just left me. Oh yes, discovering our different emotional needs. So I'm going to quickly just go over them because it sums up exactly what we've been saying. And if you can look at the notes, by the way, I've made in this book, like over the years, and my own notes here. So check this out. When it comes to different emotional needs of men and women, and if you want to replace instead of men and women, perhaps personality types, that goes as well. Women, they're number one. You want to guess, Tuka? What some people or women, what their primary needs when it comes to emotions? You know what theirs is?
Consistency.
What they need? Caring. Number one, caring.
For me.
Again, these are generalizations, right?
Yeah.
For men, it's apparently trust. For number second, for women, understanding. For men, acceptance, right?
I mean, to be honest with you, if I feel like as this like they're jigsaw puzzles that fit into each other, because the first thing that women want is, caring and, attention. The what men want is, what did you say the first one for the men is?
Trust.
So like care for, one says care for me, show me that whatever, trust that I am in my own time.
Yeah.
I feel like
they're complementary. Number three for women is respect. For number three for men is appreciation. Number four for women, devotion. For men is admiration. Number five for women, validation. How many times have we mentioned that today, right? Number five for men, approval. Number six for women, reassurance. And number six for men, encouragement. So I truly highly recommend, even for people who, whether you are not married yet and looking for marriage, whether you are in a getting to know a relationship, there's one on dating that I would recommend to look at before you're in an actual relationship. So getting to know someone. And if you are in a marriage and let's say you are struggling, I see a lot of people who come in, they've got difficulties in their marriages. These are some of the resources that we go through to helping them get through. Now, a funny book, if I can reach it, I don't see it. I don't see it right now here, but there's a book out. Here's one of them. There's a book of daily affirmations. If you take a look at this, daily affirmations from these book series that he has. So you could just open up like June 26th. Actually, what are we today? February 20th? 20th? See, I don't know what days I'm in. This the pandemic is done.
Okay.
So,
it's okay.
Oh, interesting. This is totally unrelated to our topic, the topic about passionate monogamy. Although I did see a huge discussion the other day on Facebook about this, right? So I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to go to February 21st, which is reacting to stress. So look at this when it says, so on February 20th, I'm pretending this is February 20th. Under stress, men tend to over-focus, while women tend to over expand. And it just goes into, discussion on that. These are great to have. These are great things for you to learn more about yourself, to learn more about people around you, how to communicate, which then leads to contentment. I'm just going to quickly give another resource because I have them. Oh, by the way, this is the other book. So this is really good to learn about and a huge topic to understand about intimacy, especially those going into marriage where, it's not really explained to you very well by your parents and your family. It's good to learn. Yeah, because there's lots of problems that we see with that when people going blindly and not understanding the expectation.
Yeah, I think that's in essence. I really have a big problem with these taboo subjects. I feel like we're in the 21st century. There are things that we shouldn't have respect, but there are things that we can Islamically talk about and be open about respectfully. And I feel like that our younger generation, or even my generation, or even, they need to understand, instead of hearing it from the, the outside world and in the way it's provocatively explained, I feel like that if we nurture ourselves and nurture our younger generation and our children in the Islamic way, by Islamically explaining it to them, that way they know how to speak, they know how to familiarize, they know how to understand, they know how to communicate. You know? And that's a problem, not knowing how to do that.
And it is a problem with our older generation, because there's a lot of aib and taboo around speaking about these things. And the problem is so very accessible now. It's accessible now for young people, anybody, to the point where they become addicted to pornography. And we have a high number of Muslim women and men who are addicted. And I see this firsthand, completely off topic, of course. But so let's get back to the topic here, because the book was there. I just wanted to bring it up. So contentment. This is an interesting one. I just want to give a resource that I actually have on this. And it's this wonderful book here that I always talk about, the 5 things we cannot change, and the happiness. Replace happiness here with contentment, right? That embracing them. Quickly say what these 5 givens are. This author, who's a psychotherapist himself, it's got over 30 years of experience, you know, and he says that, number 1, everything changes and ends in terms of our givens. Number 2, things do not always go according to plan. Number 3, life is not always fair. Number 4, pain is a part of life. And number 5, people are not loving and loyal all the time. The first part of this book explains these thoroughly in light of our relationships with family, our childhood growing up, and our marriage and relationships like that. And then it gets into, which I'm going to read apart in a bit, on how to accept them in forms of Westerns and Eastern spirituality, and looking at step-by-step processes. You know, so people sometimes come to me and say, how do I deal with this problem? Or how do I get over this? Or how, and I'm like, here, let me send you this. I'm not telling you. You need to read this, right? And a lot of
one book, you know.
Well, that's the thing, right? And this is over the years you built up like such a resource of experience and knowledge, and just the go-tos, right? And you know, I've got another one here, Feeling Good, which is by Dr. David Burns, who is the guru of anxiety. He is the one known for that, and he wrote this book, and he has a new book. I forget the title of it, but he talks about. I have to admit, I have not read this cover to cover, but I did. His
with all the collection of books you have, I don't see, you know, with all the programs, mashallah, touch wood, that you're doing, mashallah, like the fact that you do take some time out to understand these books without actually fully reading them, it's admirable. So don't cut yourself short because you haven't read the book through and through, and that's fine. You understand the concept of the book.
I love your kindness.
You know, you understand the concept of the book, even though like you haven't read it all, you know what the contents, you value the author, you value the book, and that's all an author can do.
Anyway. Here, I have to brag, I've been trained by him. I took a 3-day training with
come on.
With him, and I bought the book after the training.
There you go. That's just admiration what you've done, and admiration and out of you know, admiration for this teacher.
A teacher, a mentor, somebody that you look up to. And he's a medical doctor that has helped so many people with anxiety. I use what I've learned on him in my own practice with trauma and anxiety for people. Absolutely. So here, you know how you're constantly fighting, right? When we're talking about growth here, we're consistently fighting the givens around us that we don't like: pain, people being disloyal to us, things changing, perhaps life is not fair, all of these things. When you're constantly battling and fighting, that's a lot of negative energy, right? When you learn to embrace the fact that these are things that are going to happen in life, we just have to look again at our Islamic history, the stories that we have grown up in the majalis, and learn about these stories and look at how, for example, Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, for me, that's my personal, and I know for you as well, role model in terms of how she accepted her calamities and her challenges in her life by saying, what? I saw nothing but beauty. That is the
she understood to differentiate between the two, alayhi salam. She understood, she could not say, you know, I saw this and I saw this and I saw, because she didn't depend on the created. This again, she was talking about the creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, from young, they understood what their goal is, what their aim is, what their hardships will be, and what their understanding your purpose is a magnificent thing. It's a different type of eloquency. you know. And Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salatu salam is not no ordinary woman. She saw so many calamities, and yet she still said, I saw nothing but beauties, because she separated the two. She separated worldly people, you know, with the creator. So what can she say? She commented on the fact that no, I'm not talking to you. This is within my understanding of it. Say Zainab alayhi said, I'm not talking to you about what people have done to me, what people have done for me. From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I saw nothing but beauty. Look at who my family are. Look at what our purpose is. You know, look at what my religion is. Look at who I am. Look at what I stand for. Look at what I believe in. Look at whom I believe in. And in that, you know, it's all understanding. La ra'aytu illa jamila. I saw nothing but beauty. Understanding that, you understand who she is and who she's connecting herself with. She's not talking about these worldly people. She's not talking about the creation or her connected. Because if Sayyidina Zainab was to talk about the creation and the occurrence and the calamities that they brought on her, then she would be giving them value. And she did not want to give them value. So what she spoke about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to a higher power, because giving the value of ta'ala, nothing than that.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of women here who are talking about this as well. The beautiful quote here. It is she is more than a role model to even look at. Of course, who she comes from is who her mother is, who her grandmother is, right? And these are the women that we garner strength from, especially in the times of challenges. And this, you know, moves us along in growth in terms of what is contentment, what is success, right? And I'm looking at it again. My brain always looks at it from psychotherapeutic, but then also spiritual, right? So contentment and success in my psych training, it's all about value. Do you value your content and your success, for example, on materialistic aspects of the world, money, fame, you know, all of these kinds of things? Or, for example, working in a place where there's so much fulfillment, yet you're not getting paid much. That for you is success, your definition. And when we apply that, again, from the spiritual aspect here, is what is your purpose and goal in this life, right? What are you going towards? What is contentment and success for you? Is it fame? Is it money? Is it all getting all these materialistic things? Is that going to fulfill you? Is that what you're going to take into the grave with you? Do you believe what's going to happen to you when you go into the grave and face the Lord afterwards, right? So I think all of these can garner that change where then you can empower yourself for that growth. Because once you know what your goals are, you know your purpose. Social acceptance here doesn't mean people. Like we said, acceptance is from the creator, not the created, right? Being able to communicate your boundaries, being content and accepting what the challenges come your way. Like we said, just with Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, that in itself gives you the success. That in itself will promote that change in your life. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Your final thoughts, my dear sister.
I just honestly, I believe that no matter
like for growth for you.
I believe that no matter what spiritual entity you believe in or how spiritually connected you are and who your role models are, at the end of the day, I feel like that if you do not stay consistent and true to yourself, nothing's going to go forth. And if you do not have that, you know, if you do not feed your soul, you're not going to be able to move forward. If you continue to look at the wrongs that people do to you rather than think about the wrongs that you do that affect your life, you're not going to go forward. Social acceptance, communication. If you do not understand where you have committed that wrong to yourself and you do not acknowledge your wrongdoings before you look at other people, you're not going to have success. If you don't have contentment, if you are continuously thinking about how people are living and comparing yourself with other people and other people's success and copying and not being original, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to be content, because the person who continuously drives to have more than what they want is not growing. They're putting so much pressure on themselves to gain that success. And it's like a foundation. If you're building your foundation wrong, sooner or later the wind's going to blow and it's going to fall. However, if you're building your foundation right, no matter what happens, it won't sway, it won't fall. Do you know what I mean? And in that way, you'll get your success. And in that essence, you're actually thinking about change is all of it altogether, from where we started, from the beginning until now. Every step you take is change. You're not the same person you were yesterday. You're not going to be the same person you were yesterday. You're a different person today because you are continuously changing. And it's only up to you to utilize the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, the tools that mankind have put forth, like psychiatrists and, you know, to help you do what you're doing. Because if you are closed off, you're not going to be able to do consistency, purpose, social acceptance, communication, contentment. Contentment is one of the biggest things. Be happy with what you have and be happy for what other people have. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you in abundance. For example, why am I doing the snippets that I do on a daily basis? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Why are you doing them, Tuka?
Why am I doing them?
Why are you doing them?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me clarity in my mind to be able to be grateful for all of the calamities that I've been through. I'm not saying, oh, I've been through so much. Oh, this is no. Alhamdulillah, you know, alhamdulillah that I've been through so many things and I've gone through, you know, everybody goes through different ways. Obviously, like I value my change and my calamities in a different level because I have been through my calamities. So from them I've learned, and every step I've learned, I want to share them with people, because just in case you were me and you didn't hear what I am, you know, what I am giving you, I want you to hear it. I want you to understand that there is change. I'm not in the same place I was a year ago, and I'm not going to be in the same place I am now in a year on, inshallah, God willing. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me the space and the platform in my mind to psychologically, you know, be better, then I will be. And even if you have like the small thread of hope, don't you know, doubt it, because at least you have that small bit of hope. And that's the reason why I'm doing it. I feel like I've been to A. I've said this to you before. I feel like I've been through street A and I've been through street B, and someone's behind me. They haven't been there, and they say, "Oh, you know, Tuka, it's like, how hard is it? Just tell us." Say, well, you know what? Look at me. I'm here. So go through it. It's going to be hard, but look at me. I'm now at C. You guys haven't gone through A and B. Let's do it together. Do you know what I mean? And that's the reason why I do it, to help people. I don't want to gain anything from it other than,
you know, it's how you are processing these thoughts by putting them out in a, you know, how some people put themselves through art, right? They express themselves through art. They express themselves through poetry. You're expressing your thoughts through a medium where you capture what you were saying. And you're so good at it, being a natural speaker, a lecturer, a reciter. It makes sense for you to express it this way. And so, inshallah, let's end off by, first of all, thanking you, my dear sister Tuka, for sharing your thoughts, your insights. And like I said, even as a seasoned therapist, I was so inspired by your talk, and I can see how I can only imagine how you do a full lecture. I've had the honor of hearing it live, but on the phone, but not face to face. And I've heard you speak. Inshallah, the days come where it can.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And to be able to come on a platform, shall we say? Is it acceptable to say platform?
A medium,
to be able to come on a medium and share our thoughts and understanding with other people, and having you know, just that simple thought that one person, even if it's just one person, might walk away with something today, is a true blessing. This is so
for those of you who are watching and reading, share right now with us your thoughts of what you've taken away. And this one is a huge one, that acceptance from the creator, not the created. And
this is so vital to one's growth. Acceptance from the creator, not the created. I learned that the hard way, and it made me so much more steadfast. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for acknowledging.
Absolutely. So inshallah, if there's more interest in these types of discussions, Tuka and I off camera always have these types of discussions. And we said, you know what, let's put this in a medium that others can benefit from, inshallah. you know, because these talks are so inspiring. It's all about that grinding and processing and the pain that, you know, that you work through, and then finding different strategies. We both today gave you strategies of what Tuka has experienced to get through difficult things, but also from spiritual strategies as well as psychotherapeutic. We appreciate every single one of you who shared your time, and we've consistently had the same amount of people and engagement from the beginning, even though Instagram, you know, played against us today.
Yeah. Well, you can see my daily snippets on my Instagram every day.
Absolutely.
Something is posted.
So check out Tuka's Instagram. Can you tell us what it is? It's Miss _ Let me write it out.
So can you write it?
I can write it. If you want to just type it, or I can just put
I can type it.
You're typing it? Or just here, it's MISS_TUKA?
Yeah, _A.
_A. So this is on Instagram. So this is Tuka's, is it not showing up? I'm speaking British now. There it is. This is Tuka's Instagram handle. You can check out her beautiful inspirational clips there of her processing of things. If any of you have any questions or would like to connect with a counselor per se, contact me and I'll put you in contact. I don't do private counseling right now because I work full time and don't have time, but I will definitely put you in contact with a counselor where you can have almost like could be a session, what we called today, probably 2 hours. There's a session. You can have the space with the counselor where you can really work on challenges in your life and look at different strategies. Yeah. Again, thank you very much, my dear sister Tuka. May Allah bless you in your journey.
To continuously have an effect on people that you do on a daily basis, and may Allah give people the abundance and the pleasure of being in your presence and having that heart fulfillment. The way
that much with this. Thank you so much. Kulla min Allah. It's all from God. Inshallah, gives us the strength to continue. May He accept this. The most important thing, may He accept our amal, inshallah. Bless all of you.
Somebody says, keep on going, sisters. When are you doing this next? So
we'll have to decide. We'll have to decide when both Sister Tuka and I, inshallah, if there was an interest in this, we could definitely explore other topics. I just want to put it out there, inshallah, tomorrow we're going to have another part of our Insta Ahlul Bayt series, and I hope that the internet works this time.
Hopefully.
With Sister Sara Azam. If you remember a few months back, she came out and we talked about her bullying story. And I know this really inspired a lot of people. And she's been inspired by her coming out talking about it. And she wants to talk more on to how to help people talking about body image and confidence and self-esteem. So that's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be I forget the time. You can go on my Instagram. It's there. I forget. Do you remember what time, Tuka?
Yeah, we'll check for you now.
I had a few programs. I completely forgot what we got going.
Yeah, I think it's, alhamdulillah, we've had a lot of programs, so that's the reason why. I'm checking for you. It's at 9:30 GMT.
9:30? Okay, so that 9:30.
So, 4:30 next year.
4:30 our time, right. So tomorrow we will have our next program. It's going to be with Sister Sara. And for those of you who are interested, please do give us feedback. You can message us privately on our own Instagrams, our own platforms. Tell us what topics you would like and be interested in, especially this type of forum that we have.
It would be really grateful to see what we can talk about and, how we can engage with you guys, how we can benefit from you, and you can benefit from us, inshallah.
Inshallah. Bless you all. Thank you so much, everybody. Bless you. Thank you for interaction. May Allah bless you. Please remember us in your du'as on these holy days, especially as we head into deeper and deeper into the spiritual months. And thank you again. Bless you all. Are you taking a picture? All right, let's do it. Put the camera down. You don't need to show the camera.
It doesn't work.
You can do it like that.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Done. Thank you.
That's so cheesy because I do it when you're not watching,
Hey, at least I give you a warning.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bless you all again. Inshallah, we'll see you soon again. Check us out tomorrow. And please do follow I hate the word please do follow. Please do engage with the platforms the content that we're working on, inshallah, to grow, to develop and inspire and lift each other up, inshallah. Take care, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.